Well, it's just right here, and I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh my God, yes, it's
it's kind of
easy.
like hieroglyphs or something. It's
Yeah.
not really.
Welcome to the Explore Everywhere podcast, where we explore the world through hiking trails and paddling routes, visit some amazing places, and meet the people who love and protect them. To support the Explore Everywhere podcast, check out our online store at www.exploreeverywheremedia.com. For the map, pictures, and details on the route to Molly's Rock, check out the new Paddling MB website at www.paddlingmb.ca or check out the link in the show notes. Welcome to episode 23 of the Explore Everywhere podcast. This one has been a year in the making. Sorry for the delay. This one is a two-part series from a paddle that we had last summer, and it was a group paddle with Dino Kubrick put it on. He did it under the Canoe Kayak New Brunswick Association, but it was a trip to Molly's Rock in the Benton Deadwater. Benton's a little spot close to Woodstock off the highway, and there's a long flooded deadwater there. And on that route, it's Eel River, but on that route there's Molly's Rock, which is a large flattish rock that makes a good stopping spot along the river. And there's a lot of history there for thousands of years. That used to be a main route, if you know about the Maliseet Trail, going from the St. John River Valley all the way through to Bangor. This is part of that route. I think there were 7 kayaks and 7 canoes that went on this trip. It was a beautiful day. Lots of dragonflies, which was good because I think that was what was keeping the mosquitoes down. It was an absolute beautiful day. So we paddled to Molly's Rock. Heard stories about trips that Dino took with, you'll hear from Beth Johnson. She told a story about a trip that they took back in 2005, actually. So Dino, Beth, and Craig McDonald was there, and there's another guy on that trip. But they went all the way through from Meductic on the St. John River all the way through to Bangor on the Maliseet Trail. And she tells about those stories, and amazing stories. So much so that I actually missed the story that Anne told on what Molly's Rock actually was. So I have to go back with somebody and find out the actual story from Molly's Rock. But from what I can understand, it's a rock where it used to be, like I say, a major stopping point for people that were traveling on that route. And Molly might have been somebody that sold things on that rock as just a common place, kind of a convenience store of the day 2,000 years ago. But just an amazing spot. There's engravings on the rock. There's all kinds of stuff that you'll hear about in this episode. So episode 1 is our trip to the rock. It is about the rock itself a little bit. It's about the trips that were made in the past. So Dino, Beth, Craig, and another guy made the trips. And I'll try to add some of these names in the description. They made a trip in 2005. And they tell how much of a struggle some of it was. There is another trip with Patrick Polches and Martin Paul in 1994 that made the trip, and the same thing, they had this similar kind of struggles. That's episode 1. Episode 2 is after that, for more storytelling. When we left and packed our boats up, we went down the road in Benton to the church, and we heard stories from some of the writings around the area. And we walked out to where Dino thinks that the Portage Trail would have came out and hit Eel River. So you could take Eel River around, a long way around to get to Meductic. But there's also what they think from the writings is the Portage Trail that cut across country from where the river turns away from the St. John River. And it's right there in Benton. And then we go down further down the road to across from the Agriculture Center. And it's where the Portage Trail would have cut across country. And talk about a potentially lost golden calf in one of the stories from 1877. And then we ended the day. So that's part 2. So with that, let's jump in a canoe and go on the Benton Deadwater to Molly's Rock.
Okay guys, so we're now in the main channel. Now on the way back, I think the easiest way to get where we want to go is going to be down the main channel, see the dam, don't go over the dam, and then go to your left. So Blake, I understand you like swimming. I understand you.
I'm a hippo.
I heard that you like. Trip isn't complete unless you get a dip. I hear.
Well, you challenge yourself a little
Challenge yourself a little bit. Sorry, so we'll head out. This is where the confusion starts. Like a lot of people, there's a number of stories of people getting in here and just getting kind of not finding where they're going. But right now we're on a GPS track I laid down quite a while ago for Molly's Rock. So Ann and I will take the lead. We've got 7 kayaks. And how many canoes, Ann? 7? Including us?
Yeah, I think so.
So once in a while, you guys, people do a count. If you think we're missing somebody, let us know. And away we go.
Oh, holy jump, there's a lot of dragonflies today.
Yeah. But they hang out in here, hey, when you get in the open water. It's not as many.
Yeah, with just a little bit of wind out there. Wow, that's lovely.
That's good though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
For the mosquitoes. I mean. Although there's a bit of a breeze, hey, so.
Yeah. It's hard to believe how much lower this is than when we were here.
What would they be fishing here?
I don't know if there's probably trout, I'm guessing, but yeah, I don't know.
So that right there is an island?
Yeah, you can go around. We went around the back side of it and looped around and then went back down again. Got something.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there's another stream that goes up this way, up to the left.
To the left?
That island's kind of a point, almost like there's a point of land behind it, I think,
Okay.
between the two streams.
This is Poca Moonshine stream up here. The Poca Moonshine goes back for a number of miles, and there's an old prospector who's got a claim up there for lead. So he hasn't acted on it in a number of years. I think it's just so difficult to get in there with the mining operation, and the mining operation done properly, this kind of water and stuff, it could be an issue, but that's Poca Moonshine, and the first one we went by was Fish Creek. So right now we're about a kilometer from Blackie's Landing, which will be on this side here, and we're not quite halfway to Molly's. We're coming up to a place as Blackie's Landing, and that's just a couple hundred meters ahead on the shore. And that's really the only way to get in and out of here within a kilometer or two of civilization. Another road, if you look ahead, you see a flat piece of forestry at the end of these mountains towards the water. There's a road there, but you're on a lumber road and you've got probably 7 to 10 kilometers to get out the paved road. So that's our only kind of reasonable way to get out of here in a hurry. And there's a brewery up there. How far? You can see the roof. I think you can see the roof of the brewery when we went by here.
Up the hill.
You can head up and we'll get you on the way back.
It's one of those days where you just want to keep going.
I know, hey? It's awesome.
It is.
All right, folks, I'm going to try to come in and bring your boat over to this side here when you get in. We'll talk to somebody else. It's going to be difficult to do this without getting your feet wet.
It's Molly's Rock.
Well, that's all right. Still
Yeah,
dry.
I guess so.
So really, the best place to come in is right here. I'll drop you off there.
You could go in
Get
here.
people on the shore to help get them up.
Do you want to just pull in here, James?
I don't know how wet it is between here and there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me try and pull a little further.
Yeah, I'll
You hold
stay
it.
steady in.
There.
Push it right up on her, yeah. That's good.
Well, when the spy maps the Americans released in 1820 came out, it turns out that there was a portage right there because there was a falls. So when Ducks Unlimited flooded down below, even up here the flood exists, but the length of a leg of an outboard motor will touch the rapids that were a portage in 1820. So it was it was a pretty funky thing because if you hadn't told me that, I would have known about it. So you look, and the drawings from Chief Neptune's trip through here, the two surveyors did a really good job. And you can take the drawings and lay them over Google Earth, and be very close to what the actual river is. And where you told me I had that spot marked, there's a portage right there with falls.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is incredible how accurate they
Yeah.
were.
The screen, I just put the screen down. All of a sudden, the spectrum of light changed, and it was R. Graham. Was what I picked up in here. But you can see some stuff in here. Yeah. I think that might be the H there, maybe.
Yeah, H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Boy,
so it's
you
a
wouldn't know
little
now.
tricky to get. But there's some other people told me they've seen some other things here, but this is the only one I'm aware of.
Oh, really?
Here. Yeah, you.
Oh, there's some bigger.
Is that you want to show people there? Do you need some water for that, or you can see it pretty easily?
I think, well, I guess I don't. I've never used the water before. You can see it quite plainly.
Okay.
I thought you were kind of letting the discovery happen.
Building up the intrigue.
Well, it's just right here, and I mean, it's
Oh, go ahead.
Oh my God, yes, it's
kind of like
easy.
hieroglyphs or something. It's not
Yeah.
really. I didn't think it was letters when we were kids here looking at it. We kind of tried to make letters out of it, and it didn't seem to make letters. Some of them do, but some of them don't. So we thought it might have been some kind of a hybrid or something. I don't know.
Wow.
But Dino's water might make some of that appear
Yes,
more.
Dino.
I guess I've never really tried to decipher anything or take any pictures. He's the one with the fancy equipment, I guess.
So you used to come up here as kids to see this stuff.
It will all come
Yeah,
out.
yeah, absolutely. We were on this river all the time. When I was a kid, the channel was narrow, and there was these beautiful, majestic oak and maple and elm, and just hanging over the river. There were places here where they almost touched in the middle. Seriously, especially up here above the falls, right where you go above that. What you said, where they tear the bottom off the boats, call the falls. It's not really falls, but right above that, oh, it was beautiful. The trees would touch right over top of you, and it was perfectly shaded for like a. I don't know. There would be spots that there would be sun, but there were like literally miles of the river that were under canopy.
Is it the dam that backs things up? And
This dam in Benton where you guys put in, yep.
And Molly's Rock was probably much bigger then, was it?
No, here the water wouldn't have affected it too
Okay.
much. I mean, the water made it come up
They was gonna take a picture of.
a foot here, or maybe
Yeah.
2 feet here, maybe.
Although,
So it would have flooded in the back more, maybe, but it wouldn't have taken away much of the property. But as far as the riverbank, yeah, those trees, once that water come up 2 feet, it drowned those trees, and in 10 years they were all in the water.
So
And
what was the purpose of the dam?
Ducks Unlimited,
Just to make a bigger wetland.
make a bigger wetland for ducks.
The
20 in
river
this
does
area.
take some of that nature back when you get way up.
Yeah, above the falls it's
Yeah.
virtually unchanged. Or I mean, it's still come up a little bit, and you lost most of the trees, but
Is there a put in above here, like road access?
Yeah.
yeah, you can put in at Slater Road.
And there's 2 roads, isn't there?
Yep. But Slater Road would be the best place to put in. Then you wouldn't have to. If you
bridge
put in
across
at Eel Lake, you can put in right at Eel Lake
Yeah.
and come down through. But there's a spot there that you have to portage. It's just a short portage at what's a mill? I'm terrible with names.
Is Slater Road, is there a bridge over the river there?
Jamie.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Non-loaded. Holy, look at the dragonflies over here. Wow.
Dragonfly breeding ground there.
It is. That's crazy.
When Patrick and Martin went in 2005, Patrick Polchis and Martin Paul,
yeah,
pardon me, in 1994,
yeah.
and it was the first all Aboriginal trip in more than 100 years in 94 to that time. And I along with David Keenley Side, who was a field archaeologist with the Museum of Civilization in Ottawa, and several of us put together this expedition with Martin and Pat. And
It has an Armenian name under it.
David and I canoed down the river. We camped up around the corner here, I don't know, 4 or 5 kilometers. And then they walked right from Maliseet Trail, where you go to Hayes Falls. They walked straight through the woods. They bushwhacked. And by the time they got to Benton, they were dehydrated,
building
and
beside, like the
then they had the
lot
canoe.
beside them.
And then I was telling
now he
Dino,
has
they went up
steak
here
and
and
stuff.
they went left, and they lost 4 or 5 hours
And took them to work.
in a
They
bad
were
channel
the
there.
best supervisor.
Then they finally, and I'll never forget it.
He's a young fella, he's got
We
a
were
lot of
standing
people
there,
working for
David
him.
and I, and we had
Busy.
cold beer for them, and I had a barbecue set up,
So you
and
can buy
it
you
was
know,
the two of them.
these teas and
They
a
just
lot
couldn't
of
believe it. Oh my
Lebanese
God,
and
steak
Turkish
and beer,
Syrian
and then the rest of the time they were on their own. But I'll tell you what's fascinating was traveling with David Keenlyside,
time.
who is one of Canada's leading experts on the
Vulgar and
Eastern North American indigenous peoples.
all kinds of different
And we'd be in the canoe, we'd be paddling down the river further up here,
plants.
and we'd go close to shore, and he'd say, "There's a petroglyph right there," and sure enough, there it was, and it was fascinating. And then a few years later, we did a film. Bob Miller, my friend Bob Miller, did a film. In fact, Dino was familiar with that
You can
film.
buy pickles.
Well, I think that might have been when I met you first.
Yeah,
You showed it to us.
that's right. That's right. We
Yeah.
did that at Atlantic Media Works. That's correct.
Yeah.
And so we were at you would know which waterfalls it was. It's about a class 5 waterfalls, rapids down in Maine. And we were sitting around, and we had film crew there, and we're sitting around just like this. And David Keenlyside says, "You see that tree over there, Bob?" And he said, "If we reach under there, I'm almost positive we'll find some pottery shards, or we'll find." So Bob turned the camera on. None of us had been there before, and David Keenlyside reaches in and he starts pulling out stuff. And it was the most amazing thing that he had been doing that for so long. He could tell, and the reason he knew that there were
Artifacts there.
artifacts there is because the indigenous people would have camped before they undertook to walk around the falls, or they would leave all their stuff right there. So it was common sense, but it was really fascinating. That film is still around. Bob is gone now, of course, but it's an interesting. And we did manage to get some money out of the province to do aerial photographs. And
Yes, I remember the aerial.
Yeah.
stuff.
it was really quite an adventure.
What's the name of the film again?
I can't remember right now, Beth, but
Oh, it was.
Bob was awfully proud of that. I have an ultimate goal with this trail, and what I'd like to see it become is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And I think that that's a very real possibility.
Trail here.
Yeah, right from here down to Bangor, Maine, down to Old Town. So it would be an international collaboration. I came up with a line called, "Is that my heart pounding or the sound of distant drums?" And that's how I feel whenever I'm in this area. But anyway, I think that this is one of the most remarkable places I've ever been up in here. And
I know, Peter, we can call home.
it's just, you can't help but be inspired by it.
The old Silk Road.
Yeah, similar thing. Yeah, and but like I say, when they were building the pyramids, indigenous people were sitting right here doing what we're doing now, having lunch. It's amazing.
I know when I did the trail, there was times that you would just. The spirit of a place just seeps into you,
Yeah,
and it's just. Well, it's a spiritual experience.
That's right.
You think of what they did and how they moved and all that they knew. It just leaves me in awe. But
Is this
to,
the DA who I was calling for?
I just think it makes us richer to know these things and to be here, because it's not just the spirit of them in the past being here. It's still a beautiful place, and
absolutely.
that the combination of the land and the nature and the history, that just creates the very richness of
Exactly.
the experience.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. There were times on the trail when Craig McDonald was great. He's done a lot of work on all the Cree portages up in Ontario,
Right.
and he has mapped down all the winter portage trails. and speaks Cree and incredible knowledgeable guy, and he was really interested in this, so he came and paddled with his daughter Nancy, who worked here in New Brunswick. But when we would, like when we were portaging around the falls there on the Mattawamkeag,
Yeah.
like he said, we portaged way around and got well below the falls, and he said, let's go up closer. He said, if they were paddling up this river, they would paddle right to the lip of the falls. And he said, and they would portage right here. And we just parted the bushes, and it's like I still just makes me, like you could just feel the spirits there.
Exactly.
And he said, look at the rock. The rock was worn out
Yeah.
from so many feet,
Yeah.
just up and down the side of those falls. And it was just that, just took me away, and just it's like you were right there.
Patrick and Martin said the very same thing. Whenever they found those footprints, they would stop and have a smudge, and
Yeah. It is. It's a gift.
It's a
You're
gift.
right, and to
gift
give
from the
thanks.
Creator. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was sorry their expedition, they didn't complete the trail.
No, they did. They got it all the way down.
Oh, did they?
They got down to Indian Island, and they had planned it so that they were received at the big powwow, the Wabanaki powwow on Indian Island at Old Town,
In Old Town.
and they were greeted with great honor, and a whole flotilla of canoes went out to greet them, and it was fabulous.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they made the whole trip.
God, he had his bags packed, and I have to tell another story about him too. So we camped right down below Hayes Falls there the first night. Just
Oh,
up
so did you walked in through Hayes Falls?
Well, for the first night, we parked at the parking lot, and we just camped up in the woods there.
Right.
And then my niece from Woodstock portaged all her gear to Benton, and we hiked up to past the falls. We crossed the highway, and we did the same thing. We just bushwhacked.
Bushwhack.
But
Pretty wet ground through there, isn't it?
well, yeah, there were. We got in.
Yeah.
We kept kind of getting off because we got into some wet spots.
Yeah.
And that, according to the maps now, it's all marked out. It's more actual trail, but.
Yeah.
But so Tony drives up that night and meets all the group, and we all were having a beer, and we always enjoyed a beer with each other. But so we go to bed and we get up, and here's the first day. Big day, right? We're gonna start the trail and do the portage. We're having breakfast, and Tony's drinking a beer for breakfast, this American beer, and I'm like, geez. I said, well, he's starting early. And but I never said anything, but down in St. Stephen we got talking about the trip, and I said, Tony, I said at first I was a little worried about you when I saw you having beer for breakfast the first morning. And he said, well, no, he said, that was when I didn't drink the night before, and I didn't want to carry it over the portage trail. I wasn't going to leave it behind. So. Oh gosh, he was a great soul.
One more thing, Beth Johnson, you were here in 2005 and probably March 20th, I think, or 21st that evening. What do you remember that night? Sorry, May.
I was just talking a little bit about it coming up here, is that in my memory, what a big day it was that we had. It was exciting. And, we walked the portage trail we went to the St. John River and deliberately started right there, and then walked and bushwhacked our way up to Benton. And we had the fortune to have all our gear portage by truck waiting for us there. But it was later in the day, and it was an adventure finding our way through the woods to Benton. And we still had to come up the river and make camp. So I just remember we were busy paddling. There was none of this like, oh my goodness, it was beautiful. But even then I remember how incredibly beautiful it was. But the excitement of the beginning of all the planning that Dino had done, and we had kicked in, and helped him do some recon in Maine. So Dino had us well informed of what we were doing, what we were responsible for. I had done a lot of food planning for the trip.
All the food planning.
So there's a big buildup, and now we finally got that paddle going. And what I do remember is how rocky it was here. Like, okay, where are you gonna put your tent? And we had a few tents. And it was the first night we camped with Craig McDonald. And I think we get the tarp up that night too. I think it rained most every night.
Rained every
Yeah,
day.
and I remember we had our fire up in the crack in the rocks, and you had those great steel bars.
Those are Craig's fire irons.
Yes, the fire irons. So there's a lot of new things I learned on the trip. I mean, I brought years of doing trips to different places, but I was just telling people here that when we did that crossing in 2005, much as I've done paddle trips up north in the Yukon and Nahanni, and trips in South America and the States, doing the trail in 2005 had been probably one of the biggest adventures I ever had. It had everything that you would want in an adventure. It had such a rich history, and it has, in that history, it's just the spirit that's on this trail. It's very moving to me. We were just talking about it. But, and the beauty of it, like, I remember as you keep going up this river, I mean, we're going upstream and slow down a little bit through the rapids, and just the big trees. And you couldn't help, although you're trying to get somewhere, the beauty of the trail really was always with us. But it challenged everything. Like, imagine, you know, making camp here late at day in the rain. Rocks are slippery. You know, where are you going to put your tent? You know, all our gear's out. And then just navigating, but a lot of prep went into this trip. And I have to thank Dino for organizing us. We had a plan, and we should get to these sites. If we can get there, we're doing well. And then it rained like heck, you know, which was another gift. Everybody at home thinking about us thought we were having a terrible trip, but the rivers came up and away we went. So as far as an adventure, and the people in the trail, they were friends or just new friends, and that part of taking care of each other and each pulling your weight, you had to pull your weight. And it was just unspoken. You just got up and you did things and you made things happen. And by making things happen, that's when the magic happens. So there was magic on that trip. There was lots of learning. Deep friendships evolved, and a deeper understanding of this rich history that we have here on this trail and in this part of the country. So I just felt so honored to be on the trip, and it's, you know, I just took lots of lessons away. I took a deeper appreciation of the history of our province and its people, of the challenges of just doing something local. I mean, we went through 5 different waterways. There's a lot of balls in the air. So and one night further on in the trip, I remember crawling into a very wet tent and a damp bag, and thought that's probably the biggest adventure day I've ever had. It called forth everything I had to just keep going and make sure things happened, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
And what was neat was, I think half of us didn't know one another.
Yeah, deeper friendships.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know Craig at all. We met each other kind of doing the recon stuff. Yeah.
But Craig showed up, like I'm wearing quick dry this, quick dry that. Craig showed up wearing your uncle's Big Brother green pants, and Big Brother green shirt, and a full-size axe, and like he didn't have any of this, you know, fancy schmancy stuff. At the end of day one, no one was allowed to touch that axe except Craig. Like, we realized that a full-size axe is what we needed. And Craig taught us, like, there wasn't a supper or a stopping or a happening where Craig didn't teach us something. It was just, it was just masterclass. He was,
Yeah.
I mean, Beth was really something. I mean, you brought skills like I've never seen. But Craig was, he even taught you things.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's
Yeah.
part of the beauty of it, that you learn so much. Like that guy put up a tarp. Like his little way of slipping the rope through the
Oh yeah.
grommets with a little piece of wood in there. Like what I loved about him, and it really fits my motto of, if you're going to take people outdoors, it needs to be a positive experience. It needs to be safe. But part of that is being prepared, and if it's going to pour rain all night, you need to put up a good tarp. And that's the difference between one hell of a night having supper or sitting under a great tarp and being happy. And so Craig was like, you're going to do something, you do it right. And yeah, he taught us a lot.
Yeah, one third of the firewood that we'd bring in, Craig would downgrade it to not burnable. Well, not burnable till he went to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything he'd hold it up against his face to test it. And if he didn't determine it was dry enough, you weren't going to burn it.
Yeah.
And that saved us. We didn't really know where we were going to camp, and we didn't book ahead. But the point of view on land ownership when you cross that American border changes drastically. And we were somewhere that we didn't know the owner, but we're camping the side, and we hear an ATV going through the woods. And we got a feeling he could smell our fire. But because of Craig's standards on dry wood, there was no smoke. You couldn't find the fire. So everybody the whole group, we kept doing what we were doing, we just did it quietly. And we all looked at one another, and we could hear the guys, because it was 3 in the afternoon, and we needed that. We needed the camp. Every meal we had was over a fire. There was no stove cooking once we got going. And so Craig's fire standard really, I think it made us, we wouldn't have finished the trip.
Oh yeah. I mean, with all the rain, we were in love with standing dry hardwood.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
well, we should think about, the wind is actually going to help us get home. So we should probably think about heading out. Probably, it's 1 o'clock now. I think you should be on the water by, sorry, is it 12 o'clock now? 1. So let's try to be on the water by 1:30.
Also, the mouth of Moonshine, brook that runs in here that is normally full of trout. So here would have been an easy place to get a meal too, right? And not just a meal of bony old pickerel, or bass wouldn't have been in the water here at all probably, but trout's beautiful. If you've ever eaten brook trout, it's the best fish there is. And an abundant supply would have been right here, like easy access.
Yeah, just gotta steer with the wind now.
Yeah, nice little tailwind.
So that's an eagle there. Look at
Oh
diving
yeah,
down the
wait up,
stream
look
there.
at the wingspan. Ooh, we're gonna go over the dam.
We're close. Until next time, hope to see you on the trail or on the water.